he's a killer. You know, he's a killer, but did you know he's serial killer?
Oh, it's from Sherlock.
It is time for us to go.
Yes.
Are you ready for the night of your life? Okay, I'm gonna start it.
Okay.
Hello, and welcome back to Studying Purple. It's been a second.
Hello.
I know, you guys are all deeply disappointed that you missed last week's episode. I heard about the complaints. There were 0 complaints, but it's okay.
There were 0 complaints.
But guess what? We're back.
Yeah.
And you have to deal with this now, because you chose to listen to us.
And I'm jet lagged.
Yeah. Nina just happened to go out of the country for a little bit.
Yeah.
And so it's all Nina's fault, actually, why we didn't do last week's episode. So.
Yeah.
It's okay, though. We forgive her. Like, kind of. Anyway. But I feel like you guys will all be excited. Oh, so this is a Study in Purple, if you forgot, that is run by WECB, the underground sound of Emerson College. Crazy, I know. Wow.
Crazy. And welcome to episode 9, entitled Serial Killer.
But like a cereal, like you eat.
Yeah. Because, like, that guy we're talking about, he's a killer. You know he's a killer, but did you know that he's a serial killer? Like cereal with a C?
I think based off the title Serial Killer, we did.
This is from Sherlock, and it's been stuck in my head, and I don't know why. But it fits the vibes, because cereal is a food. And the person we're talking about today is Jeffrey Dahmer.
Dun dun dun. The cat's out of the bag.
Yeah. So content warning as always. This is a crime show. And although we don't dive into the gruesome, horrible stuff, to give you a heads up, this is a crime show. And there are mentions of violence, death, blood, murder, abuse, domestic abuse, and other triggering topics. And if you are not up for this, please take care of yourself and leave.
Go away. Get out.
Yes. Thank you.
Much love. Thanks.
Yes. It's not personal. It's just...
It is for me.
It's not... But, yeah, this content isn't for everyone, so take care of yourself. And if you want to listen in later, you can find our YouTube, which is Study in Purple, and tune in to any of the past episodes once I finally upload them. I've been saying this for a while now, and I haven't uploaded any of them. But there are 3 of them, or 4, on our YouTube that you can check out.
Yippee!
In the meantime, yes.
Yay!
Yeah!
Whoopoo!
Yay!
Okay. Especially if you know anything about Jeffrey Dahmer, I feel like this is, like, definitely, like, content warning. Because reading into this case, I was like, how do we censor all of this?
Did you?
It's a lot.
Did you know this before? Did you
like, I did, but I didn't think about it that much in terms of, like, going into podcast mode.
Yeah.
And what we are allowed to say and what we shouldn't say.
Yeah.
But yes, let's just get right into Jeffrey Dahmer.
So Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer was born on May 21st. It's coming up, guys. In 1960. I don't think anyone's happy for that. In 1960, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. In his lifetime, he was also known as the Milwaukee Cannibal and the Milwaukee Monster.
What great names.
Yeah. He was born to his parents Lionel Herbert Dahmer and Joyce Annette Dahmer. And his father was like studying to be a chemist, like for 6 years of Dahmer, like the first 6 years of Dahmer's life. And his mom was apparently a teletype machine instructor, but her real occupation was depression.
Don't we all?
Yeah, she was really narcissistic and depressed and hypochondriac, and she demanded a lot of attention. I came from a country where I primarily spoke Russian, so I'm like picking up English. And she like always wanted attention, and she was kind of like neglectful towards her kids. And apparently Dahmer was really like attention deprived as a kid. And Lionel wasn't home a lot. Like, he wanted to spend time with his kids, but he was studying, and then he became a research chemist. I wrote it down. Yes, research chemist. After he finished his study, so he wasn't able to be home all the time. Also, apparently his mom attempted suicide at one point, and Dahmer found her. Or yes, Jeff found her, and called the police. So that must have not been good.
Definitely does something to a kid's psychological being. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, his parents fought a lot, so they would always fight over things. They would always yell, and yeah, he was like, his childhood was filled with arguments and tension. I'm like, wait, waking up. Yeah. So apparently he was like an energetic child. Like, he was happy, but then he was, he had a surgery when he was a kid. It was a double hernia surgery, and it was shortly before his 4th birthday, and afterwards he kind of changed, and a lot of people noticed that change, and his dad, Lionel, blamed, like, Jeff's state of mind later in life, and after he was captured, on the double hernia surgery, because, yes, that makes sense.
I think those doctors, they did something.
Yeah.
Maybe it's anesthesia.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Totally.
Yeah, it wasn't anything else.
No.
Right. Yeah, and his teachers were also noticing that Jeff was showing signs of abandonment, and also, which, like, increased when Joyce became pregnant with her second child, which, Jeff was the first kid, and they had a second kid in 1966, so Jeff was 6, who was named David, and that Jeff got to pick the name. He picked David.
David Dahmer.
David Dahmer, yeah. Imagine being Jeffrey Dahmer's brother. That's just so...
How is David Dahmer?
He's still alive. Yeah, and Jeff developed a love for dead animals and dissection very early in life. He liked to collect roadkill, and that was a hobby he and his dad shared. His dad actually taught him a lot about it. He helped him, like, learn how to do it, and he would go on these hikes with Jeff to collect these animals. And they had a whole, like, little setup in the garage, in the shed. And, yeah, and his dad thought it was, like, their bonding activity. It was very, very fun and great. Jeff developed a really bad drinking problem in high school. And, he wasn't really, like, fitting in anything. And he got really bad grades, and eventually he got enrolled at Ohio State University in the fall of 1976 by his dad. But he failed out of college. Like, after a semester, he dropped, and he had really bad grades, and he was drinking heavily, so he was failing everything. He dropped out, and in 1979, he enlisted in the Army, and he got stationed in... He was an Army medic, specifically combat medic, in the 2nd Battalion, 68th Armored Regiment, and he was stationed in West Germany. And apparently he was like a good soldier in the beginning, but he was also drinking during that time. So he kept getting drunk, and, that's not good when you're doing a job. And a lot of fellow soldiers started coming forward and saying that they were being assaulted and harassed by Dahmer. Yeah. And in 1981, so 2 years later, Dahmer was discharged honorably. But it was, because he was drinking and assaulting people. Yeah. I don't know why he was discharged honorably. They said that he was he was unsuitable for military service. I don't know if that's how I would describe it, but
I mean, in 1978, before he did get discharged, he did kill someone. So
yes.
Maybe it has something to do with it.
I don't know if they knew about that. But yeah, basically afterwards, Dahmer just kind of lived a simple life. He moved to Miami Beach and he worked at a deli, because that makes sense, knives and stuff like that. And yeah, he worked at a deli, but he also got kicked out. And then he returned to Ohio, and he lived with his father and his stepmother for a while, until he was arrested for disorderly conduct and continued drinking heavily. And then his father eventually sent him to live with his grandmother, in West Allis, Wisconsin, so a little bit like in the suburbs.
Because that always strains people out. Hey, I can't deal with you, so you can go to your grandmother. Thanks.
Yes, she did a great job raising me. Now she's gonna raise you. So this was also in 1981 through 1988. So a lot happened in that year, in 1981. Apparently this was like the calmest period in Jeff's life, until like things started to escalate.
1988.
He kind of throughout he committed small crimes and stuff, and he was arrested for indecent exposure, and also he went to some carnival and it wasn't good. So he was arrested for that. Also his grandmother started noticing weird things happening in her house. Like Jeff started he kept bringing young men over late at night. He was there were foul odors coming from the basement, and Jeff was telling her that he was keeping spoiled meat in there and dead animals.
As you always do.
Yeah, and he had this room that he would lock up, and she would be like, "What is in there?" And he's like, "A squirrel died in there, and I keep it there." And she was like, "Maybe can you clean it?" And he was like, "No." And so she thought that was weird. She also found a mannequin in his room, which he stole from a department store and was using for purposes.
For purposes.
For purposes, yeah. It was in his room in his bed, so we're all adults here. By 1988, Dahmer he felt really it was really hard to keep hiding things from his family and his grandmother, because people were onto him. His dad would come to lecture him every now and then, and his grandmother started noticing weird things. And also he was arrested for drugging and molesting a 13-year-old boy. He didn't kill him, but he did get in trouble. He got convicted in 1989 and sentenced to 1 year in work release program and 5 years probation. So, great time. And he kind of had to move out of his grandmother's place. And yeah, he moved to his own apartment at 924 North 25th Street in Milwaukee.
If you ever want to go there.
Yeah. I don't think it's there. It was demolished. Yeah. It was demolished and they were going to build a park for the victims. But then they never did. They kept telling them that they would. Never did.
That just sounds like the government.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the background.
So heading into more of the crime, which I'm going to try my best to censor a lot of these things. And focusing, I feel on the main two that kind of caused the whole chaos, the skyrocketing factor of his compulsions and whatnot. So the first one he murdered was in June 18th of 1978, which was Stephen Mark Hicks.
So that's when he finished high school, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So he enrolled in Ohio State University in fall of 78.
Mm-hmm.
Context, continue.
Which Stephen Mark Hicks was 18 years old, last seen hitchhiking, to a rock concert, because I don't know why they were hitchhiking, but they were hitchhiking. And then, like, Hicks caught Dahmer's eye. One thing led to another. They like to see each other, and then kind of just murdered.
What's the sound effect?
I'm trying to not talk about exactly how they were killed, because it's a little graphic of some things.
If you hear this sound, that means you're about to die.
Yes, of course, because that's what every horror movie has taught us.
Yeah.
So Stephen Mark Hicks died June 18th, after running into Dahmer. I feel like you'll see a common thing with Dahmer and doing that.
Yeah. Maybe he's the problem.
Maybe, but I don't know about that. A common denominator never solved anything. And
yeah,
kind of left the pieces of his body behind Dahmer's family home.
Well, not his bones.
Yeah.
Mainly. Yeah.
Those pieces of his body.
Yes. Well, no, that sounds more gruesome. Like, I feel like I'm more okay with someone's bones being left behind than someone's body.
Left Stephen Mark Hicks behind the house. Okay. They had a nice coffee time. Yeah. Yeah. And then, like you were saying, that Dahmer had more of like a calm period, that between 1978 and 1988 didn't really have murders. Like, he wasn't doing that. He went to the military. He got dishonorably discharged. He went to go live with his grandmother in the process. Remember those, like, squirrels and everything in the basement? Well, we might figure out a squirrel. So November 20th of 1988, 10 years after the first murder, Stephen Toomey. Yep, we're gonna go with that. Tuomi? Sure. 25 years old, which Dahmer brought back to a hotel was just trying to drug him. And eventually, he accidentally kind of overdosed him. And he, like, in the middle of the night, they stopped breathing. His chest was, like, black and blue. And so accidentally ended up killing him. And then Jeffrey did some things to the body. And this kind of skyrocketed into the murder. I'm really trying not to be graphic, okay? Because it's a very graphic case overall. But kind of skyrocketed into him not being able to control it. And so within the next 3 years, there was 16 more bodies.
Oh, wow, that's a lot. Murders.
Oh, wow, that was a lot. Which just kind of was bad. And this was primarily a lot of young men and boys that were being taken advantage of and killed, of course, because Jeffrey lured them and thinking, like, oh, he's just a sweet old guy. Primarily, a lot of those were people of color based on just, like, the photographs that I've seen. And I wonder kind of why that is. Maybe because they would be least expected for, like, the police to care about just because of the time. Or he just really was into that because it was very much, like, fetishizing all of that.
I think he was really into that because he was, like, he only killed people he liked. So they were all people he thought were pretty.
And so he really was, for some reason, really more into people of color.
Yeah.
And then 2 months after Tuomi's death, killed 14-year-old James Duckstader. And kind of just going into the list, March 24th was Richard Guerrero, which was 22. April 2nd was Ronald Flowers Jr. March 23rd was Anthony Spears, which was 26. May 20th, Raymond Smith. June 1990 was Eddie Smith.
Why is it March? April, March?
Because it was a different year.
Oh.
He didn't do that much, like, else, like,
Okay.
killing in 1989. And so, and then May 20th, Raymond Smith. June 1990, Eddie Smith with 28. September of 1990 was Ernest Miller. That same September also was David C. Thomas, 23. And then the year of 1991, he really went off and killed Curtis Schroeder, 17. Earl Lindsay, and 19. Anthony Hughes, 31. Cornet Smith, don't even ask, was 14.
Cornerack,
okay. Which was 14.
Synthesomphone. I can't.
I was not going to try. But yes. And then Matt Turner, which was 20. Jeremiah Winberger, 23. Oliver Lacey, 23. And Joseph Bradhoft, 25. They were all murdered in like similar ways. They were all stored.
Stored. Maybe Dancing in Chains.
Yeah.
Dancing in Chains. Okay, so Nietzsche used to say that, like, writing well is being able to dance in chains. So it's like you have like these guidelines kind of, and you have to like
I'm in a box.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. You're dancing in chains.
Oh yeah, they were stored, okay, for safekeeping.
Yeah. Safekeeping.
And
it's so dark.
I don't even know if I can like say this either. No, it's fine. It was a lot of like necrophilia things.
Sorry, someone just like passed by. I was like, well, he's here, guys.
Yeah, all these poor victims, a lot of them also being underage. Well, like 3 were underage.
They're all in their 20s though, except this guy. This guy's old, 31.
Poor, this guy was old. Damn. But yeah, it was a lot of younger people that he would prey on, or people that nobody would like really hear about seeing again, I guess. But like Oliver Lacey, like definitely like was married and like had like a little like 2-year-old boy, and Jeffrey Dahmer took advantage of him. Anyway.
Yeah. Also, all of these guys were, he would find them in, like, the gay bar.
Oh, yeah. Like, then, like, they would just be like, come back to my hotel.
Yeah.
Come back to this place.
Yeah.
No, don't. Stranger danger. Run away. If I could tell them right now.
So, yeah. So, the reason why Jeff was discovered was kind of silly. Because, you know, all of this he was doing, and it was really obvious that this was happening, but nobody really paid attention.
In little Milwaukee, Wisconsin, nobody was going to care.
They were like, nobody paid attention. But
just sad.
He had a neighbor who called the police on the regular because Jeff's apartment stank of death and rotting meat. And they had a vent that connected their apartments, and she would be like, it stinks, I can't live here, he's doing something, he's up to something, please come see it. But because the area where he lived in was kind of like a really bad neighborhood, and the apartment complex where he lived in was like where a lot of people of color lived, and kind of like the, you know, the lower class people, the police didn't do anything about it. There was actually a case of the guy with Cornerack, who was 14 years old, on killed on May 27th. He managed to escape Jeff's apartment. He was lured there when Jeff was like, oh, I'm going to buy you alcohol, and then I'm going to take pictures of you and give you money. And Kornarak went with him. He was actually the brother of the kid Jeffrey assaulted earlier, for 13-year-old boy, for, like, why Jeffrey was previously in prison. And that was his younger brother. And so he lured his brother to his apartment, and he was like, oh, I'm going to buy you alcohol, and I'm going to take pictures of you. And then he drugged him, and did another thing. But and then he went to buy more alcohol. And when he was away, the boy, like Kornarak, he gained consciousness, and he tried to escape. And he wandered out into the street, and he started trying to ask people for help, but he couldn't really, like, speak cohesively and coherently. I don't know, coherently. And there were some women who were like, they called the police, and they were like, hey, something's up with this boy. And that's when Jeffrey Dahmer walked up, and he said, oh, this is my lover. He's 21 or 25 or something, and we're upstairs doing the devil's tango, and he's just very drunk. And the police took Kornarak back to Jeffrey's apartment, and I hit the mic. They took him back, and they had like a little look around, and they were like, okay, everything seems legit, even though, like, it didn't really look legit, you know.
I don't think the police got paid enough to care, so they're like, whatever. Yeah.
So, that happened, and then obviously Kornarak died. So nobody really, like, paid attention to what was happening, even though it was happening under their noses. But the reason he was caught was because Tracy Edwards, a 32-year-old man, managed to escape because he kind of, like, you know, he was kind of smart about it, and he ran away, and he got the police, and he led them back to Jeffrey's apartment, and he was like, hey, there are dead people there, and there are people being stored there. And
Stored.
Sorry. And yeah, can you come check it out, please? And basically, he, like, Dahmer lured him to his apartment because he promised that he's gonna pay him for posing for photographs, but once he was inside, he tried to poison him. Also, Edward said that he noticed that there was a very weird smell, and there was acid barrels everywhere, and Jeffrey was holding a knife. And this guy was like, nuh-uh, thank you. Also, Dahmer handcuffed Edwards. And so, and yeah, he had a very fun night, but when Jeffrey was distracted, Edwards ran away and got the police and stuff. And that's when the police came back with Edwards, and they were like, they took a look around, and they found a bunch of very disturbing stuff, like a drawer full of Polaroid photos of that, like, documented the. Can I say this? They documented the very graphic details of the murders. There's a refrigerator that contained a head of one of the victims. There's a freezer with multiple human organs, like livers and hearts. What?
I feel like we're going on to some territory.
Yeah. There were also a few more human remains. There was drums filled with acid, where something was dissolving, or someone. There was also, like, bleach cleaned trophies, as Dahmer called them. And, like, a little shrine that Dahmer began building out of some things that he collected.
That he stored.
Yeah. And so the police arrested Dahmer, which is, like, the only good thing that they did. The only good and correct thing that they did in this whole case and the whole ordeal. They immediately took him into custody. And once they brought him in, he immediately confessed to the whole thing, and he confessed to 17 murders between the years of 1978 and 1991. So he didn't try to hide it. But he told them everything. He told them the details. He told them about how he lured people from gay bars. He told them about him drugging victims, and that he was trying to make sex zombies. That's what he called them. He also expressed that he felt a relief being caught, and he couldn't stop on his own. So then he was like, he wanted to be caught.
He could just like walked up to like a police station.
I know. Like, there were other options. But he claimed that he wasn't killing out of rage or hatred, and he was like, it was just like a instinct for him, and that's why he wanted complete control, and he couldn't stop himself, and he kept doing it, and it was kind of like a habit for him, and he kind of expressed remorse, and he was like, I didn't want to kill these people.
Why'd you do it? That's crazy.
Yeah, he said that he often felt like he was operating on impulse, and he was just like, he was very relieved that he got caught. He was like, guys, this, I deserve this. I should have been caught a long time ago, and I was waiting for you guys to catch me, but you didn't. And I feel so bad.
It's your guys' fault, actually. And how dare you not catch me?
And I feel so bad for doing all of this. So that's... Yeah.
Yeah. You're so out of it.
Yeah.
But, like, after Dahmer's arrest, you can only tell that it just, like, was marked as one of the most disturbing of serial killer histories in American history. We didn't, of course, get into all the details of it, but, like, if you know about Dahmer and you want to explore that more yourself, you would get why. That this was crazy, and as well as, like, 18 bodies in, like, 3 years. That's wild. Actually, 17 in 3 years, and then the other one was from years ago. But with the investigation, this was like some failures of the Milwaukee police, because they sucked. I don't know if you can tell by like literally not caring about this person being like, he's not taking care of me. No, but like Dahmer's like, he's my lover. No, like what? Whatever. But like 2 officers like had like returned the 19-year-old victim, like we were saying, Cornerack, right? Cornerack.
I want to know how his name is pronounced.
I feel like it's like Cornerack.
No, his last name.
Synthosomophone.
Oh. That was good.
Sure. To Dahmer, just like months earlier, being like, you know what? You're wrong. You're not killing. I know it's just like a lover's quarrel, and then just like lover, and he's just a little drunky. But those officers were eventually suspended, luckily. That did return literally the 14-year-old victim to this literal adult. Like, what do you mean that you guys are lovers? You're literally like, the age difference, wild.
But they didn't, like, Dahmer was like, oh yeah, he's 25, and they were like, yeah, it seems legit.
Yeah, this 14-year-old looks 25. If you see a photo of this 14-year-old, no, he does not look 25. I'm sorry, he not. Like, whatever. But the officers were later reinstated, which caused major backlash, especially like for the city's LGBTQ plus community, and immigrant communities, because this 14-year-old did come from a Native American background, and so this had a lot of bad backlash to these officers being reinstated, but also, of course, Dahmer.
This kid looks 8.
No, literally, like, how can the police say that he's, like, 25? Like, aren't you gonna ask for an ID?
I think he did, and they did, and Dahmer was just like, he doesn't have one. He's drunk. But, like, he doesn't look...
I don't know, but, like, I just wouldn't, like, put them back in that situation. Like, whatever. Which, of course, Dahmer sparked, like, a wave of books, films, TV shows, you name it. Like, so much, of course, that has been over Netflix and social media, and who hasn't talked about Dahmer, I feel like. Like, who doesn't know about Jeffrey Dahmer? And many were controversial, like, kind of glorifying and, like, humanizing him. Which I feel like is weird. Like, to put him on the same level, at least psychologically, as, like, a normal working human. Because of all the things he did and what he did himself. I don't know. To me, it's weird, but hey. He was also known as a serial killer celebrity, which was also just being glorified a lot by people. Like, why is that a celebrity? Like, why are we amplifying this so much more?
Mm-hmm.
And making him have a big head about it. Like, he not that cool, my guy. Like, also, why would we do that so that way more people think that it's cool to be a serial killer? Like, then we have a lot of copycats that come from that because he also want the fame from it because of what the media and people in the audience have gained from that. And he just overall became, like, this poster child for quiet monster, polite, soft-spoken, and not what you expect. Which is very much what we've been talking about, like your neighbor next door type vibe.
Mm-hmm.
That it could literally be anyone. Like, for how long Dahmer went about it and being able to go along with all these murders without being suspected, and just because that, like, the police, I feel like, didn't care. Like, I'm hoping the police are, like, better now than compared to the late 1980s and into the 1990s, but, like, those police were stupid.
Well, it was also the area of, like, where a lot of, you know,
crime did happen,
yeah.
But also, like, you would think that, oh, that make you more suspicious of it.
I don't know. I feel like no. I feel like if you're expecting, like, an area that's really bad to be, like, if you're there and it's really bad and you're just like, okay, well, like, you know, like, if this was Beverly Hills, they would be like, oh, something's wrong, just because it was, like, the middle of nowhere,
think the
Milwaukee.
Opposite. Because you think Beverly Hills, and you think nothing go wrong in Beverly Hills because it's Beverly Hills. Like, you wouldn't suspect someone to be killing in Beverly Hills. But if it's a bad part of town, you expect there to be crimes and danger and whatnot.
Yeah, but it's also, like, the place where people get drunk and they're, like, on drugs and, you know, all of that stuff. And I feel like you would expect automatically to just run into that, you know?
Yeah, I guess, but I don't know. And I also feel like Dahmer being a white man also might have had some effect into that.
I suppose.
I mean, like, especially for the time, like, it depends on, like, the police officers. A lot of them still weren't accepting yet of people of color, and, like, having this white man be like, oh yeah, like, this person that's very much of color is just my lover, and then be like, okay, checks out, let's go on with our day, let's go get a donut. Really putting that stereotype into the lives of police, I guess, because he can't really investigate without much evidence, but I digress. But, like, unlike other killers, Dahmer was kind of, like, sought fame, like, oh, no, sorry. Unlike other killers, like, that wanted the fame and wanted the whole, like, theatrics of the whole media and scheme and whatnot, Dahmer was, didn't want that. Like, he was very chill. He wanted to, of course, be arrested, like we said, and didn't exactly want to fit into the mold of all the other killers, and kind of, like, redefine what serial killers were portrayed as, like, compared to Charles Manson or, like, Ted Bundy. Hint, hint.
What's the previous one and the next one?
Yeah. And Richard Ramirez. I was gonna say Menendez, but that's a whole other episode.
That's not.
That's a whole other episode. But it was intriguing because he he wasn't doing it for, like, oh. He did it more for a fantasizing and fetishing type thing rather than the act of murder. Like, it's a weird... I feel like it's weird phrasing. But...
Yeah. He did murder not for murder, but for something else. For control.
For his own pleasures, I guess. And so, when the police, of course, caught him, he was more happy to have stopped because it was a satisfaction of doing it rather than the, like, murdering itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he didn't have a vendetta against these people. They didn't have, like, a motive or whatnot. It was literally just because he found happiness in it in a weird way.
Yeah, they always say do what you love.
I feel like in this case, please don't. But definitely was more soft-spoken, more polite, like, unassuming, and I also think that might have contributed to why the police never caught him, why it kind of went on for as long as it did, and also why he was kind of, like, able to hide it, like, from his grandmother.
Yeah.
When he was living at the house.
I think his family also didn't want to find out what was happening. I think they were kind of self-deceiving, you know? Like, they knew what was happening, but they didn't want confirmation.
Well, because they didn't want to believe that it was true, because then they would have to send away their own son. And, like, report it to the police. And it's kind of like, the less you know, the better type thing. So,
like, they probably knew it wasn't squirrels, but they were just like...
Well, those are definitely squirrels, sweetie.
Yeah. They're like,
sure.
Squirrels? For sure. He's 25? For sure.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, even though when the 25-year-old did come, like, the technically 14-year-old, they weren't he was living in a different house than with the grandparent, with his grandma. But lived in a very modest apartment, had a regular job. And, like, didn't bring it. He was very average for a guy. Yeah. Sorry, I hit the mic. But he was very average, to say the least. And you just wouldn't suspect him. Like, but the most quiet people are the ones you gotta look out for, apparently. Apparently. And he kind of just showed little to no bravado about his crimes. Like, normal. Everything's so great. Everything's so wow. Very much, like, challenging the stereotypes of serial killers. And kind of, like, what it meant. Dahmer was also portrayed as as a man tormented by inner demons. I feel like there was a show I watched recently that I feel like could have been similar to how, like, Dahmer is, like, doing things. Because it's, like, all these other voices telling you to do it, but then you don't want to do it because in your mind when you do kill, it's like this beautiful thing, and then once you, like, start taking pills to help with it, then it goes back to, like, this pretty thing. Oh. I need to show you it. Okay. It's a interesting show. I think it has Anna Kendrick in it. And then it's, like, this pretty pink purple town. Like, they're cute.
One thing I do find kind of, like, admiring, right? One thing I do admire Dahmer for is, like, that, you know, he was living through the AIDS crisis, and he was just very unapologetically, like, fruity, you know? The police was like, who is this? And he was just like, that's my lover. That is my boyfriend. We're literally together. We were making out upstairs.
It's called The Voices. The Voices. Sorry. Yeah, it's called The Voices, which basically is this man that, like, both his dog and cat can talk to him. But it's only because, like, he has something that's, like, psychologically wrong with him. Like, he's already been to therapy. Like, the therapists already have, like, prescribed him, like, with medication to, like, help combat this. But he doesn't want to take the medication because then the voices go away and nothing is pretty anymore. And it feels very mundane of his life. But in that headspace, it's, like, the voices telling him to kill these people. Like, the first murder is, like, seen as accidental. Even though, like, in his mind, like, he never meant to kill the girl, like, he never meant to do that. But, like, when you're, like, in the not pretty space, it, like, he meant to do it type thing. And he keeps saying, like, oh, I didn't mean to. And then he does, like, then the people that he killed start talking to him, being like, I want a friend. And then he ends up killing more people in the end.
Damn.
Anyway. But yeah, I feel like we don't have much time left in the episode, so I want to get into the trial and defense. This is why I don't think I need to... He was very just, like, deeply disturbed as a human, which we'll also get into with Nina.
Yeah, so his legal team pleaded guilty because there wasn't really any way to not. But they pleaded guilty but insane. So that was their argument. They were really pushing that Dahmer's insane, and they were like, yeah, he wasn't in control. Don't commit, like, because back then he was still being committed, like, I think death sentence was still a thing, right?
Yeah.
And he was being on death row, or, like, being tried for death row. And so that was the strategy. During his trial, he was assessed by multiple psychologists and psychiatrists who diagnosed him with a mix of serious, like, conditions, including borderline personality disorder, schizotypal personality disorder, where you have trouble, like, forming connections with people, necrophilia, of course, alcohol dependence, and antisocial personality disorder. And so that was kind of the defense that they were pushing. They were like, yeah, he's insane. And Dahmer also, I think... Oh, Dahmer was actually sabotaging himself because he was like, no, I'm not insane. And they were like, bro, we're trying to do something here. But the prosecution countered that, and they said that he wasn't insane. And that he knew what he was doing wrong, and he tried to cover his tracks, like he was hiding evidence, he was lying to the police, he was, hiding everything, he was, all that stuff. And he knew that it was wrong, and he kept doing it anyways, and he also carefully planned his actions. So ultimately the jury decided that he was sane and criminally responsible. So they basically rejected the insanity defense, and they sentenced him to 15 life terms, a total of 957 years in prison. However, Dahmer didn't get to... Yeah, he wasn't put on death row, but he was sentenced to a bunch of years in prison, but he was killed shortly after, in prison by this other guy who said that he got a vision from God who told him to kill Dahmer. And so he killed him in one of the rooms, and I don't know why no one was watching. Like, I feel like they're supposed to be watched.
They were on cleaning duty.
Yeah.
Like, they were just letting the inmates kind of, like, just do their thing. So...
Yeah. This is really creepy. There's a bunch of babies, like, on the side of the thing.
A bunch of babies.
Yeah. This is not related to the episode. It's just in the room.
There's just a bunch of babies here, sorry.
A bunch of babies. So he was killed. I think he was 34. Yeah. And his dad was really upset about the whole thing. He was like, it was the hernia surgery. And
that double hernia surgery really did it to him, and that's why he's so messed up.
Yeah, and the dad tried to write a book, but then it ended up being... He was, like, trying to write a book, and he was trying to publish it, but then the money from the book went to the families of the victims, and it was split between them. And, yeah, that was that. So, why are we still talking about this?
'Cause we can.
Yeah.
Hell and yeah. Also, who isn't talking about Jeffrey Dahmer, though? Or being completely honest.
One thing I found interesting was that there's obviously a Netflix show about this. It's called Monster.
There's been multiple Netflix shows about it.
But there's one called Monster that just came out. So we're still very much talking about it. But it was interesting because it was like how are we honoring the families of the victims? Because there was this whole thing about the mom of one of the victims. His name was he was the 31-year-old Anthony Hughes. Yeah. he was deaf, and in the episodes, like in the series, there's like a whole love story between him and Dahmer, which was obviously done because it's like, it's a Netflix show and you want to sell it, and it's cute, and it's like showing this very human side of someone who you are like characterizing as a monster, but the family didn't really feel that was a good representation, because they were like, what do you mean my son was like enjoying this relationship, and why are you presenting them this way?
Like, he's literally dead because of Dahmer.
Yeah, and there's no evidence that this relationship happened, and there's actually more evidence that it didn't. So it's really like, how, like, why are we actually honoring these memories of these people, and are we re-traumatizing families, and are we like, what is the more, like, are we glorifying this behavior and trying to humanize?
Because I think also
something.
the documentaries don't talk like a lot about the victims.
Yeah.
It doesn't at least like paint them like a good light, or like bring like honor to them, I feel. As much as it probably should, because these are real people that lost their lives because of this man. And instead are being like, Dahmer's not that bad. Like, what? Which doesn't make much sense to me, and it doesn't feel like we are getting educated on what truly happened. And we're being told that, like, oh, Dahmer had a good heart, he had good intentions. And I don't feel that was true. Just personally, I don't know. I feel like it could have just been done better from Netflix itself. But also, just like, maybe we should just stop being like, oh my god, Jeffrey Dahmer's so hot, bro.
Yeah, but
he killed people.
There's also that aspect of like, we like to categorize things and people, and so because of his actions, we just kind of write him off as a monster, and like yes, he was, but at the same time, it's like we kind of categorize him as that, and there is no room for any other personality traits or anything. And I feel like what these shows are doing are kind of like adding personality and humanity into these people, and showing that it's not someone like it's not just a monster, it's a person, and it could be anyone. And so it's kind of showing that side of like, it could be someone, and it doesn't, like, it's unexpected, and it's not someone who would be like, hi, I'm a monster.
But it feels very like disrespectful to the families.
Yeah.
To have this side being shown. Like, maybe I get like, oh, it can be anyone, but I feel like overall it's not like about that. Like, I feel like there's a greater purpose. And it's to talk about these families that lost their lives of like their fellow family members, and like their like brother they loved, or like their son, and just how that kind of affected them in the end.
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely also another thing, and I think it's still important to show like the humanity and human side of these people, of the killers, but at the same time it needs to be done in a way that's respectful towards the memories of the victims.
Feel that way.
Yeah.
Like,
that
especially with Anthony.
Yeah.
Like, it was perceiving him in such a way that like very much didn't happen. Even if it did, like, it doesn't, I feel like, make an excuse for what happened to him.
Yeah. But yeah. But if you don't take into account that it was based on real events, the series is actually pretty good. Stylistically speaking.
I don't know if I couldn't take into account that it's based on real events.
Yeah. But yeah.
It is 10:55.
Yes, it is.
And we have a lot more we could talk about, but sadly we can't.
Yes. So thank you so much for tuning in. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on YouTube. Yeah.
A Study in Purple.
Yes.
Yay.
With a bunch of periods between every word.
For the Instagram, but the YouTube is fine. Okay.
The YouTube is hard to find. I tried to do it on someone's phone, and it's hard to find because, like, you know.
Well, we're not really that popular.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say.
But yeah, thank you for tuning in. Good night and good luck.
Good night and good news.